If you've been dreaming about a place where life feels a little more intentional, discover the Canopy in Sebastopol by City Ventures. This new community offers solar-powered homes, surrounded by mature trees, nature preserves, and walking trails, with a vibrant local downtown, renowned wineries, and the Bay Area all within easy reach. Enjoy low-maintenance living, refined design, and built-in eco-friendly features that make everyday life easier. Start your next chapter at the Canopy by City Ventures. Visit cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
This podcast may contain discussions of graphic violence, unsettling themes, supernatural phenomena, and other topics that some listeners may find disturbing or triggering. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are simply those of the individual hosts and do not represent the profession of psychology or constitute professional advice.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Secret Passage podcast. It is I, Dana Vespoli, alongside my co-host, Shannon Rogers.
Hello. Very good to be here with you.
Welcome back, gang. We have a special every episode's a special episode. I don't know that. Like a very special episode of Secret Passage podcast. That used to be how they'd introduce. Remember the 80s like sitcoms when they would do a very special episode, like the Different Strokes where Arnold gets molested and.
Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Wasn't there a Punky Brewster one where her friend gets like stuck in a fridge to raise awareness for children getting trapped in fridges and dying?
I don't remember that one.
I'm not sure if it was Punky Brewster. All I know is that I'd be like going along, watching my, Facts of Life, Different Strokes, and then suddenly, like, first of all, not understanding the implications of what a very special episode was, but just being like, what the fuck? What happened to Dudley? Why did that happen to Dudley? Yeah, anyway.
Have you seen that thing that's making the rounds right now from Walker, Texas Ranger?
Yeah, so Walker told me I have AIDS. That's with Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then seeing him as an adult now is so weird. Oh, man. Well, before we get into our episode, Shannon, did you happen down any interesting secret passages this past week?
Well, I feel like every week I could tell you a story about my neighborhood. So Tim and I were sitting here the other day and all of a sudden there's this like boom, 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 boom knock on the front door. And I'm like, no, we're not answering that. Like, ew. And so I went out my window and I looked at my window and I peeked and it was this grizzly old guy, like, probably like 35, 40, but kind of hippie, kind of, a homeless person potentially. He had a backpack and he had like a broom with him. And I thought, maybe he's like going door to door and he wants to like clean stuff. So I was like, don't answer it. And so he knocked again. He's like, boom, 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 boom. Like really aggressively. And so Tim goes to the door and he's like, hey, bro. He's like, do you guys smoke weed? And we're like, no. And I was like, we should have sent him over to our neighbor Scott's. But yeah, no, we did not. But Tim wants to be him for Halloween now.
That's hysterical.
So that was my secret passage. Another eventful morning in Fruitvale.
I don't like it when people knock on my door, period.
Oh, my nervous system. It's either like some solar panel person or the Jehovah's Witnesses usually. And so this was a new one. But yeah, I know my whole body seizes up if someone knocks on my door. Yeah.
Did I tell you about when the Mormons showed up at my door?
Yeah.
That was like a few months ago. That was before I had a sign on our gate that says like, no soliciting, seriously, don't knock. Please don't make it weird. Yeah, it says that, please don't make this weird.
Really? So, that's great.
So the nicest fucking people, man. Mormons are so friendly and outgoing and nice. But it was like this thing where I thought it would be an easy like end to the discussion, because they were like, hey, the initial like we're from the Church of Latter-day Saints, and we were wondering if you have heard I can't remember what they said. And I was like, well, funny enough, I already attend church. I'm a Christian, so I'm good. And they're like, but what about the Church of Latter-day Saints? And I was like, are you trying to steal me away? Are you trying to poach?
They were poaching you.
They were trying to poach. And I didn't want to even go down the road of, I come from Mormon stock on my mother's side. Like I come from like generations of Mormons on my mother's side. And my mom actually like left and joined the Catholic Church, which was a whole other kind of traumatizing event in my life, just the Catholicism and me, like we didn't mix. So I was like, I'm not even going to tell them I come from Mormon stock and that like I had relatives that did their mission and all that kind of stuff. Cause then they're going to be like, so it's in your blood. But yeah, I like, they left. And then I immediately made sure to get like a no solicitation sign, because prior to that, same thing, solar paneling, things about like bug spray people, whatever it is, like vermin people. Anyway, yeah.
Vermin people.
The vermin folk, like rat people.
Or just vermin.
Just vermin coming up like boom, boom, boom. Like normally we don't ask. We just like eat your vegetables and like, tear the wires in your car. But
oh my God. No, we had a vermin that was coming on our door and peeing on it. I thought it was like, I know. I think it was a cat spraying. And I saw it and I made up a little like, I'm like, this cat's walking around the neighborhood peeing on everybody's doors, like, to all the little buddies, I'm the boss.
Yeah. This is my house now. Oh man.
So how about you and your secret passage?
My secret passage. I feel like I have a secret passage. Oh, well, how about Clown in a Cornfield, which you recommended? I watched that last night.
What did you think?
Well, first of all, I love clowns. Like unironically, if there's an ironic way to love clowns, I don't know. I don't know. I just really like clowns a lot. And I even had a shirt I would wear on Halloween that said, "It's all clowns are funny." And it's a picture of a clown holding a balloon in the cemetery.
Oh.
But anyone who's also like watched my Evil Angel content, they know I love clowns. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I was watching it and absolutely delighting in just the squeaky shoes. I love the squeaky clown shoes. And then the giant clown footprint when this guy's like, how are your feet this big in the cornfield? And it's funny because one of my twins came in when I was watching it and saw the part with the giant like footprint. And I was like, hey, do you think clowns just wear big shoes, or do you think their feet are that big? And he's like, well, I mean, you remember the giant clown shoes that, the other twin wanted for Christmas, because he wanted clown shoes for Christmas. I don't know why. So I'm like, that's the thing. And then just all these things about like, are clowns people dressing up as clowns, or like imagining clowns as being this kind of species? I like to think of them that way. Like Art the Clown, who might be my favorite evil clown, more than Pennywise, because Pennywise is for fans of Stephen King lore. Pennywise is just a sort of an incarnation of this weird ancient demonic spirit. So sometimes he's a creepy spider, sometimes he's a clown. But like I like just the clown that's a clown. So I love the clown thing. It was hilarious. It was so funny. I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. There were a lot of surprises. I like that it didn't take itself super seriously. It was very camp, and that's, I think, where it really succeeded. Is it wasn't trying to be especially scary. I mean, there's plenty of tension and some scares and things like that, but it was just a lot of fun.
So fun. So many funny jokes. Yeah. Like referencing horror and, the running through the cornfield when the girls are running through the cornfield. And she's like, I feel like I'm in like an 80s movie in the corn. Yeah. And I liked that it was totally our era because it started in 91, like the time that's, and then.
Are you talking about in Kettle Springs?
Yes.
Kettle Springs. I like the name Kettle Springs.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So that was fun. It just, it was a nice clown experience, horror experience, and comedy experience all rolled into one. So I really appreciated that. Thank you for the recommendation.
You're very welcome.
Well, I guess we'll get into this episode. This episode is all about Savannah, late porn star Savannah, late Vivid video porn star Savannah, who had a very short career of about 4 years and died by self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1994. And we discuss what topics to do. And, of course, we do enjoy covering true crime. Enjoy, meaning it's just, it's interesting to try and unpack and understand why things happen, how things happen. And then sometimes subject, regardless of how old it is, how dated it might be, I think deserves to be revisited in the context of today. And so that is why I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about the late Savannah and also just the context of her life and the period she grew up in and died in the context of now with how the porn industry has evolved, how our recognition of mental health as worthy of discussion, of exploration, and also aging, I think. Being older as a woman, and then being older as a woman in the context of entertainment, and our attitudes about sex, and the mythology of women's empowerment in the context of, really, let's be honest, the male gaze. Like that's we talked about that a little bit with the Lily Phillips episode, but that might even be applicable here as well. So, do you know much about Savannah?
I don't. So I'm coming into this with no knowledge of Savannah, no research, except for our conversations. Or, we didn't, and this time we didn't talk a lot about it. And so I'm coming in fresh. So I would love to know like something about her history and her work and that kind of thing.
Was her name familiar to you prior to this? Oh,
yeah, that's right. Yes. She, I think she was like a pretty big, she's the person my boyfriend would talk about as one of the, there was also another person, Sia or something, or
Seika. Yeah.
People talked about Seika in high school, the boys.
Okay.
And then I had a boyfriend in college who liked Savannah, and that Savannah was one of his favorite people. Stars.
Okay. Yes. So she was a huge, very popular contract star for Vivid Video. So back in the day, like the big studios were Vivid, which was like number one. Vivid had the contract stars who were really, really, really popular. They benefited, from higher quality production. Bigger budgets, lots of exposure, as much exposure as you could have back then, before really the internet took off. They would do feature dancing engagements where they would go travel the country to different strip clubs and be like the featured showcase person. And people would come in droves from the various towns to see them.
And that was part of their like promotion and marketing for
exactly.
I see. Okay.
Yes. So, of course, at the time, the video stores, because again, this is pre-iPhone, internet websites, pay-per-view type things. You would have like the pay-per-view in hotel rooms, right? If you wanted to go and watch an adult movie, you'd have access there. You'd have access in the stores, which would have posters. So the posters you would see, I mean, like, if you've ever been into like one of these adult video stores, you know, the walls would be lined with VHS tapes and all of that. But you would have like the posters. And the posters generally tended to be the vivid stars. You know, they were made up really, really well. There was nothing like amateur looking about it. They looked very glamorous. So you would have like Savannah, later on, Jenna Jameson, who were some of the other, Jamie Summers, Christy Canyon, all of these. You'd sort of start recognizing them based on these posters. But before this, Savannah came into the world as Shannon Michelle Wilsey. That was her name. And she was born in California, but then moved to Texas. And she was the product of a tough upbringing. She was one of several children. And her father left pretty early on. I think before she could even know that he was her father, and her mother remarried a man and didn't tell her that wasn't her father.
Whoa. So
she grew up thinking that her stepdad was her real dad, and she didn't find out until she was registering for middle school, and she had been using the last name Longoria because that was her stepfather's last name. And the school was like, well, you know, you have to, that's not your last name. Like, you have to use your actual last name. And then that's how she found out that her real father left and that her stepfather was not her real father. And so that was tough on her because I mean, for obvious reasons, it's a weird thing to find out in such a harsh way.
Yeah.
And she was sexually abused by her stepdad. Her mother didn't believe her. To this day, says that never happened, which there's the problem, as far as I'm concerned, that followed her whole life.
Wow. That happens frequently, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And she was essentially a throwaway kid. Like, she bounced around from different living situations. And then eventually she loved music and rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. And she ended up in a relationship with Greg Allman when she was 16 and he was in his 40s. And I mean, I can't say this as a fact, but it is widely believed that he is the one that introduced her to heroin and drugs and all that kind of stuff. And it would stand to reason because he was abusing drugs. So there's a lot to unpack right there. A 16-year-old girl, a man that, you know, is in his 40s. He's into drugs. She gets into drugs, and she's known for being involved with a lot of rock and roll types. That was that. I mean, she loved that kind of world. She loved the music, and she loved feeling important to these guys who were seen as important.
Yeah. Did she ever get off heroin? Did she?
She did. She had. It was kind of like this. In the end, it was cocaine that was the primary thing, and it was cocaine that was found in her system when they did her autopsy. She wanted to be famous, and she moved to Hollywood. She was in a few like kind of C movies, you know, kind of like bottom of the barrel, kind of really super low budget, like horror slasher type things. Dating various musicians. One was this guy, Billy Sheehan, and he was from a band. She was in a relationship with him. He seemed nice. There's an E! True Hollywood story about her. It's really the only documentary that I could find. I remember seeing it when it came out. It came out in like 99. Yeah, end of the 90s. Pretty thorough. You know, they interviewed Billy Sheehan. They interviewed Vince Neil, who's another person that she partied with. And she thought he was her boyfriend. He denied that he was ever her boyfriend, that they just were buddies that partied together. She was involved with Slash, who didn't want to ever talk about that.
Wow.
Billy Idol.
She was like on the scene.
Yes,
I'm going to look her up while you're talking,
of
and because
course,
I
go for
want to
it.
see what she looks like now.
She ended up doing some bikini modeling
Mm-hmm.
because at this point, she's trying to make money. Oh, I want to say that she ended up moving and living with her biological father for a while, who lived in Ventura.
Oh, wow.
So he was, I don't, was he interviewed? I think so.
So they reconnected, and it was
It
like, is
was
she?
okay. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
think at this point she was very preoccupied with her relationship with Greg Allman, and he would send her gifts. He would call her all the time when he was on the road.
Mm-hmm. I totally remember her.
Yeah, her father
Okay.
would kind of. I get the impression I have is that her father. Well, number one, he was never really geared up to be a dad. I don't think they had a bad relationship, but I think it was pretty hands off. And I think at the point that she was with him, she was kind of making it clear that, she's doing her kind of her own thing, paving her own path with whatever, skills she could.
Mm-hmm.
But she got into the bikini modeling, which then made its way into like the nude figure modeling. And it was really trippy to see her bits and pieces of her at these various like kind of award shows and like recognizing some of the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got involved with a gentleman who was at one point he was male talent, and then later on he was sort of directing a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
she ended up working with a company that no longer exists now. I think it was called Video Exclusives, and they did some pretty, not totally gonzo style, but like your kind of run of the mill standard porn type thing, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not like locations and a big crew and all
Mm-hmm.
that. But she was introduced into that world. She needed money, and she had a kind of a friendship with one of the owners.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he would come by in a limo and pick her up to go do favors and then bring her back, and she would be crying.
Mm.
And listeners, if I'm iffy on this, just let me know. Anyone who's super familiar with her or knew her even or worked with her. She went from Video Exclusives and being under contract to Video Exclusives. Well, first of all, the owner was found dead later because of a lot of. There's the kind of stereotype about the porn industry and the mob industry, at least early on, being very intertwined, and that is true. That I've spoken to folks that described experiences of being, shooting porn in the 90s, and at the end of the day, these guys would show up in suits and open up briefcases and pull out wads of cash and pass them around. So, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying that is what happened to this guy, but he was definitely involved in some shit. She ended up moving on to Vivid and was under contract to Vivid and became incredibly, incredibly popular, where her image on a box cover, her being in the movie itself, was producing record sales.
Mm.
And she became demanding on set pretty quickly, I want to say, demanding things like people go and get her drugs. She would show up late. She was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Not unlikable, but very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course she became, I think, bratty, very, very, very bratty. Eventually her, and the guys, I'm summarizing this so that we can kind of get into the real discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said, her career was very short-lived when you think about it. 4 years is real fast.
4 years.
4 years.
So when did she start? Was she like 18, 19? Do you know?
I want to say she was 18 or 19.
Okay.
Maybe 19. She died when she was 23. She was very young.
Wow.
23, about to be 24.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because she died in July of 94. And she was born in October.
Mm-hmm.
Still very young. So she became very, very difficult. She started to kind of put on weight that was probably a consequence of the heroin Heroin was her primary thing, the booze and the heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a liability, a huge liability. And so at the end, she was trying to do feature dancing engagements. She was, massively in debt to the IRS, living way beyond her means, and was, I think, periodically tried to get clean,
Mm-hmm.
but not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think she managed to get off heroin, but then of course was really just actively in a cocaine period. She was using a lot of cocaine, and then just her nose was out of commission, and then she'd apparently add cocaine to water and just drink it, get it however she could inside of herself.
Wow.
She had, her manager was trying to get her engagements to feature dance at various clubs to pay off her tax debt and also be able to pay her bills. And at the end had managed to get her a booking engagement in New York to feature dance. And she was supposed to leave on the 11th or 12th. One of those days, July 11th or 12th. And she'd been out partying and then was driving with a guy that would like house sit for her. And she crashed. She was careening around a corner, like around Studio City, crashed into a fence and into a tree. And her car was in bad shape, obviously. The guy was okay, the passenger. And she'd hit her face into the steering wheel and her nose was bleeding. It's still not clear if her nose was actually broken. Mm-hmm. She thought it was. Mm-hmm. And she had some like minor lacerations on her face. And she managed to get her car, it was a Corvette, into her garage. And she asked her friend to please go take her dog out for a walk. And when he was out to like just look at the fence and the tree and all that. While he was doing that, she got on the phone with her. She was leaving a voicemail for her manager, crying, and you can actually hear it in the E! True Hollywood story. They like play it, and she's like, "I'm fucked. I got in a car accident. My nose is broken. I don't know what I'm going to do." And essentially, this anxiety was about how the fuck she was going to get to New York with her face looking the way it did, and do this booking engagement. She desperately needed money. And I mean, I'd like to add, she was also on cocaine. And as someone who had a bad period with cocaine, the smallest problem, it becomes insurmountable. You have the paranoia, especially if you're like actively in like mild cocaine psychosis. I'm not saying she was, but I remember anything like getting a notice that my registration was coming due would produce this massive amount of paranoia and anxiety.
Yeah.
Like dumb shit like that. And so for her, already in crisis, just financial crisis, all of that. And then this was something that I've heard some reports say that her nose was broken. I've heard others say that no, she just thought it was because of her panic. And that probably they would have been able to like get her cleaned up and fine with makeup if these are minor lacerations for her engagement. But in her mind, it was like everything was destroyed. Her friend came back and found her in the garage with a loaded gun. And she was sitting on the ground, like looking at her car and like bawling. And he was like, "Don't do anything crazy. Please don't do anything crazy." And like turned to like run to grab a phone to call for help. And when he turned, he heard a pop.
Oh.
And then her manager showed up, found her like laying on the ground. They call 911. Oh. She didn't die right away. She was taken off life support like the following day. So that is a summary of her short life. And there's a lot. First of all, this story, unfortunately, is not unique. I think most people know this is not a unique story at all. It's not a unique story especially in adult, right? Yeah. The story makes me think of a lot of things. A lot of people who have taken their own lives or who have overdosed. people who they had there been something in place, had there been early intervention. It's a lot. The thing that drives me nuts with the Eat True Hollywood story, and it's not the fault of the producers, they're incredibly compassionate and non-judgmental in the way they present her story. And I absolutely will give them that. But what drives me crazy is, number one, Stephen Hirsch, who's the owner of Vivid Video, when he's interviewed, and it could be that he just didn't know what to say, but when he's asked about like, well, what are your thoughts about what happened? First, he claims that she had contacted him and had wanted to come back to Vivid, and they were in discussion, in talks about it. He didn't say one way or the other if he was like, yeah, totally, Savannah, like, we'll bring you back under contract and we'll work something out. I wouldn't fault him for not doing that because, again, just strictly from a business standpoint, that she was costing production a lot and was difficult to have on set. And it's not fair to the talent that shows up ready with their lines ready, all of that prepared to work. I get that. But he says, well, I'm paraphrasing, but like, well, she did what she did because it made the most sense to her at the time. I mean, she's dealing with the fact that she's getting older. And I'm like, bro, she was 23, 24 years old. Like, even in the porn industry, that's not old. I mean, back then, even it wasn't old. But like, it's essentially the idea is, it's like, well, that's all she had going for her. And what was she going to do? Like, she was getting old, like cast out to pasture. So that really was weird.
It sounds like he's trying to distance himself from having any influence over that decision, right?
Yeah, exactly. It definitely could be that. It's like, he might be thinking, well, shit, we didn't renew her contract. We kind of cut her off. And if that's the reason, I don't want to associate. So it could be. And there's like grasping at straws. Because like I said, even for that time, that wasn't old. Pushing 30, okay. Back then, a lot of it also just has to do with the way you look. Yeah. And how you're aging. But but I remember I like heard that and I'm like,
yeah, 23, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that absolutely drives me insane, aside from the mother being interviewed and saying, yeah, no, that didn't happen, about her being sexually abused by her stepdad. And apparently the way she would describe it, she tried calling like a drug support hotline or something in crisis at some point. She called like a crisis line. I don't know if it was a suicide hotline. I don't think so. Or if it was like one of those, because I actually called a number like that when I was in drug crisis, one of those like anonymous, like narcotics lines. And she recounted her sexual abuse experience. So it was a theme that came up, and it never diverted from
her mom never protected her.
Yeah, no, it never changed.
Yeah, it was always the same story.
Exactly. And I don't think it was just her stepdad. I think there were other experiences. I wouldn't be surprised, and again, this is just a theory, but like when she would go on the road and stuff with like Greg Allman and these guys, someone might have just abused her. Yeah. Because it rarely is it just this one thing happened, especially with her lifestyle. The other thing that drives me crazy is at the end, one of her friends saying, okay, well, this is a cautionary tale for girls who think that a career in porn is a good idea. And obviously I've been vocal about my criticisms of pornography, primarily as it exists now. And it's really, it's easy access to children. Back then, we've talked about this before. Like you had to jump through hoops to get your porn. You had to like physically go into a store. You had to like write in and have it delivered to you. Like if you're going to buy it to be shipped, you had to go to a theater to watch it. or at a hotel room to get like the adult things that you had to pay for with the credit card. So, you had to jump through hoops to get to it.
And you had to be a certain age to go
You
into
had to
those
be a
stores.
certain age.
Yeah.
Right. So that said, porn didn't do this to Savannah. The adults in her life when she was young, as I think I described to you, if we can say that like porn might be the crocodile pit that did her in, right? Like exploitation, drugs, this, continued messaging that your value is in the way that you look. She was led there. She was led there by her mother, by her stepfather, by seemingly Greg Allman, these men that used her and cast her aside. They led her and dropped her in. Like, that's the thing. Like, porn is where she ended up, and it sure shit didn't help. It's real easy to get drugs on set, all of that kind of stuff. For every Savannah, I can give you a story of somebody who, like Ginger Lynn or Christy Canyon or Raylene or these different adult stars that came out of it okay. It's not an easy environment to be in when you're suffering,
Yeah.
But it really fucking pissed me off when her mom's like, well, that didn't happen. And I'm like, her daughter's fucking dead. And she's like, she lied. She lied.
Wow.
She was never molested. It really fucking pisses me off. I don't want to diminish.
Question, at least be open to the fact that you don't know. You choose a side when you say that never happened, and she's choosing the side of her husband. It's her word against his word, and her own mother betrayed her and didn't believe her.
It's a thing. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, like, okay, none of us were there. None of us know if somehow she was able to get definitive evidence, but she didn't state it. She didn't say it didn't happen. Here's how I know it didn't happen.
Right. She didn't say like my daughter is manipulative and she was doing that to break my relationship up and blah, blah, blah. Like, because I could see a kid who's disturbed, who doesn't like their stepfather, trying to drive a wedge if they're that savvy. I don't know. But like that would you would think the mother would provide context instead of just, I choose not to believe that. Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry it's inconvenient for you, lady who also didn't tell her daughter who her real father was or any of that. Like, just set her up to be traumatized. Like, no discussion. It's like, okay, she's going in. Like, I don't know. It really just feels like Savannah was
on her own.
Just she really was just thrown out. And then when she's thrown out and she learns early that she's beautiful, that guys like her, it seems to me that she spent her life just trying to be wanted.
Yeah.
And early on, she learned that, well, guys want me because I'm hot. Guys want me. Someone said in the documentary, and I thought it was really, it was, an astute observation, that it was never really about the money for Savannah. It was about being wanted. It was about validation. It was about being famous, because what does fame mean? It's you're a kid and you're watching famous people just it feels like love. It feels like love.
a safe haven to, like, if you're famous and you're loved and adored by people, then they can't leave you. Yeah. They won't leave you. They, there's some fantasy about, and it's not stable. I mean, that's the thing, it's not stable, but it does feed, like, I think about healthy narcissism when we talk about like human development, and like healthy narcissism is something we all in an ideal world would get from our childhoods. When you're like 2 or 3 years old and you run into the living room as a kid and you don't have any clothes on and you're like, yeah, hi. The adults in your world, if they say, oh my gosh, you're amazing, I love you, you're the best, you're just such if they shower you with love and attention and love you for who you are, and then we develop a sense of healthy narcissism, right? Like, I'm pretty okay. And I've always sort of seen at least for some people, the chasing fame as chasing that, like that sense of you're okay, like as you are, and you're loved, like, but that's totally a trap because fame requires you to kind of keep up in that, you know what I mean? That hamster wheel kind of pursuit. And it waxes and wanes. People have a career that's great, and sometimes it goes underground for many, 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 many years, and then they come back on, so it isn't stable. But I can so see her wanting that, to feel good about herself and to feel like people love her.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
she didn't get that.
I will say that she had a relationship with Pauly Shore, and he's interviewed, and he seems like a nice guy. Like he really does. Obviously, his mom was really awesome and started the Comedy Store and all that. But he spoke so highly of her, and he introduced her to his mom. Like he treated her like a human.
Aww.
Whereas these other guys kind of like they treated her like, you're a porn star, whatever. I can bang you and party
You're
with
a
you,
party
and
girl, yeah,
can show you off as far as like, hey, male, my virility. Look, I'm banging this chick who's banged all these other guys. Like, I'm enough,
yeah.
But Polly was really did seem to care about her a lot, but in the tradition of challenging damaged people, he couldn't save her. Not anyone that wanted to save her, and there were people who did. Jenna Fine, who was a porn star around that time. So Savannah was pretty bisexual. She had a relationship with Jenna Fine. They were friends and also like girlfriends. But Savannah was one that was hard to pin down, hard to contain enough to be like, hey, you need help. So ultimately, she didn't want to be saved. She didn't want to be helped. You can't hold someone in like a rehab if they don't want to be there. I'm not sure if there was ever any situation that would have that she was in that would have. And even then, these like 5150 holds are only for a brief period of time. So I don't.
It's hard to get someone committed. Yeah, it's hard against their will. And then even then, yeah, they can get out. They can convince a doctor that they're okay. Or you're just making me think about trauma, though, and like how, trauma just obliterates your sense of a safe and just world. And then throw drugs in the mix. It's like, I just think about like the desperation that, that quote, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. The desperation of trying to like find some sort of equilibrium, like after being on, especially Coke, heroin, Coke, all that stuff. It's like, It's so unsettling. And she was so young. I don't know. My nervous system is just like going off, even hearing the story. It just seemed, it's like you can't, with an adult though, you can't really, like you said, contain them unless they're willing to slow down and stop what they're doing.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, if anyone could have gotten through to her, it would have been family members that could have just said, hey, I love you. I fucked up. I wasn't there for you. I want more for you. I want to help you. Yeah. I want to help you. She just, it sounds corny, but she just wanted to be loved. And in the end, the saddest thing is like, it was her, I think her biological father that pulled the plug, a man that was like never really there. No one in her family really knew her. And there's like, there were no instincts about her. She came home and she was sick with heroin withdrawal.
Wow.
For Christmas, she would shower her family with gifts, and her mom's like, I don't know. She said she had the flu. I thought it was the flu. I don't know. It was like heroin withdrawal. And I'm like, lady, come on. It's that like, I just washed my hands of it. I'm just like, I did what I don't know. I'm like, I don't, again, I was just like throwing shit at the screen. I'm like, fuckers. Like,
it's such an awful coping strategy to feign ignorance, or right, to like, it's avoidant. Like clearly the mother is like not able or maybe not willing to go there and do what, I mean, who knows how the mom even conceives of her idea of what her responsibility to her child is. But yeah, it's awful to watch,
Yeah.
like watch someone just slip through the hands of all the people in her life. And, it's just like the developmental cost of getting on drugs that young, and what that does to like all the missed opportunities for her to learn how to function better. Right.
Because she had no point of reference. I mean, her life was suffering from day one. Like there was, when I say day one, I don't know, maybe her early childhood was good or pleasant or whatever, and then shit went downhill. But it started to go downhill at the point that she, I think, had reached puberty, right? Because she was starting middle school, and then there was like nothing for her to look back on and long for,
right?
Because she'd never had it.
Yep.
So why get off the one thing that makes you feel good?
Right. I know. Like hanging out with Slash.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is intoxicating. That's like, I'm this person, I mean, I'm just making this up, but like, I'm this person who is mistreated and probably doesn't like myself very much. And it's like an infusion, like to be in the presence of people who have status and are cool, and, to have money, to have the Corvette. It's like, you can see her trying to shore herself up in a way, right? But desperate, just this sort of desperate bolstering, the drugs too. I mean, the drugs, once you start doing them and you're addicted to them, that just takes over anyway, like, so there's like the initial use of them provides some relief probably, because that's why we do these things. And then the addiction takes over, and then it's just a monster, it's like completely out of your control in some ways. And she has easy access wherever she goes.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Okay. I don't want to change the subject.
No, it's okay.
That's a question for me in terms of the industry. Is it how is it now? Like there's the 80s, I'm sure, was like Coke City, like, and everything else. Yeah. And now what's the situation now? Do people show up to work high? Do people have drugs on the set? Or can you not? Are you at freedom to disclose this stuff?
Yeah. I can totally. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'd like to say that in 2005, every single scene that I shot as a performer in 2005, I was on cocaine. I was high. I didn't tell anybody I was high. I didn't do coke openly. I didn't behave erratically. I don't think it was obvious to anyone, like in the tradition of a cokehead that is like, I showed up, I knew my lines, I did my job. So no one knew. To their credit, I don't think anybody knew. So generally speaking, it's frowned upon, right? Now, there are some productions, like even back when I started, that people would get high on set, like smoke weed. And you know how there's that weird, it's called Cali sober. It's like, I don't do drugs except for weed. So there are some productions where I don't think that they're actively using while they're shooting, but there's the presence of drugs. Okay. Nowadays, so even back when I started, I never saw drugs on set. I do remember a girl pulling out a big old bottle of Vicodin and popping a couple before she went and did an anal scene.
Okay.
I didn't say anything. I'm like, oh, it's like that. But, it was 2 Vicodin. She got through the scene. There have been cases of girls who, like, no one knew that they were, because it's also the case of sometimes you get a wacky ass performer on set and you don't know, is it drugs? Is it mental illness? Are they just eccentric? I don't know. But there have been situations where like a girl, disappears into the bathroom and comes out, keeps going to the bathroom and coming out, but she's getting through the scene, but you don't like, because there's also privacy issues. You don't want to go, hey, what are you doing in the bathroom? And if she's like, I'm just fixing my makeup, I don't know. It becomes the case of, is she able to do her job?
Yeah.
We do liability videos and things like that. Are you like, what is today's date? What is what is your birthday? How does that make you? Are you in the, under the influence of any drugs and alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
And, you say no. And essentially the crew, the director has to just sort of use their best judgment, because that's all you can do, because people also have their rights.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go based on how's the shoot going.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me, with Savannah demanding people go cop her drugs before seeing, things were a little different back then, right? You couldn't do that now. There's a zero tolerance paperwork about not even marijuana. No.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's a stoner, they're probably going to get high before they come in to the shoot, because they can't smoke pot on set.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's abusing prescription medication, if they'll show up and hopefully not be in bad shape to perform, because that's the only really indicator that you can use. But to answer your question, nowadays most productions have like a zero tolerance policy about drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And even back when I started, I didn't see it on set. And I'm sure that there were people doing what I was doing, which is like doing little bumps in the bathroom, or doing it in their car, or whatever. But it wasn't an outward thing, because at the end of the day, it is a business. And these companies are counting on, the producer and director to like get them a product that is the quality that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
she
thing.
had no guardrails, like basically no guardrails, and lots of access, and a trauma history. And I wonder about her friends, like, did she have friends? Did she have people in her life that she could trust? And
the impression I have is that her friends were in the business, and a lot of them were partying right along with her. And then the ones that couldn't handle it she didn't see very often.
Yeah.
That's the impression I have. And I will say that it's interesting looking at Savannah, that her brief history in the context of now. For all the existing flaws in my industry, there is an open dialogue about mental health, and there are resources in place. For there's also like Pineapple is something that started shortly after August Ames died in I want to say it was 2017, December of 2017, I think.
Also by suicide?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And there were a rash of deaths, young performers around that time. It was it was overwhelming. But that brought about resources for people and adults seeking mental health, but also not wanting to be stigmatized for being sex workers. And so, because it was, for some people, they either can't quit sex work, or they simply don't want to. And it seemed that a lot of, like, for example, for August, the help she was trying to get, it always came down to, well, you need to quit porn. And she's like, that's not something that either she could do or was willing to do. And for that to then preclude any possible treatment and stuff was,
that's too bad.
It is. Because regardless of whether or not someone maybe should or shouldn't, to throw what really seems like judgment out right away is, like my therapist when I was a dancer, she's amazing. She was my first therapist. And I, to this day, like, I credit her with so much help. But she never told me outright, like, don't be a stripper. She was like, hey, here are my concerns about you dancing. And none of it was, you're going to be objectified or it's just inherently wrong. Her concerns were about my anxiety and the possibility of me being in a situation in a club where I might have something happen and be vulnerable. That was it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's, that could have been maybe a path with some of these adult performers or sex workers that were, seeking counseling, is like, okay, I'm not going to tell you to quit. I'm going to tell you where my concerns are about what my, whatever. But anyway, that there is something in place. There are resources in place.
That's
for
great.
for people, and just generally speaking, a lot of folks in adult are able to be vocal about what their challenges are without fear of looking stupid or looking weak or being unshootable. So there is that. But one thing that comes up, and this is, I had mentioned her to you, like in doing my research on Savannah, which again, there's not a whole lot. There is this documentary. There's some articles that are pretty surface level, of course, or reference the documentary, the E True Hollywood Story. There's not like a ton more. Again, because she was at a time when we didn't have social media or any of that. But I was reminded of a performer that some listeners may remember her, Dakota Sky, who died in 2021. She was, I want to say 27, maybe 28 when she died. It reminded me a little bit of Savannah, a lot actually, just in how she just was hard to pin down, hard to help. And she died of an overdose in a camper, like in a homeless encampment is what the news reports describe. And I was fortunate enough to know her and to have shot her when she was performing. And it's a thing where I looked at her, and I don't know much about her history. I know she didn't have it easy. She was from Florida, and a really beautiful girl. And I remember having a conversation with her because I would see her posting on social media, like essentially begging fans to help her buy like a plane ticket to go home and like see family members. And I remember just being so confused because I remember telling her at the time I was directing quite a bit. And I remember telling her after shooting her one time, I was like, I know for myself, like I could book you like multiple times a month. Like the company would want me to shoot you multiple times a month because she was really someone that I thought should have been a huge star in the business, like on like a Riley Reid or Angela White or something like that. She was a really just talented girl. And the problem was she would manifest these ailments. And I think she legitimately believed she had them. These bizarre, like it was this odd thing. And it spoke to, aside from the drugs, some kind of mental health issue where she would legitimately, because her
medical anxiety or something
like that. She would cancel a lot. She would cancel a ton, and she canceled on me. She ended up canceling, and she would like follow up with like sending a picture of herself, and she's like, I have this swelling, and she would no explanation, and I think she would like, I'm not a medical expert obviously, but it really seemed that she would become so anxious about something that it was like it would crop up on her like a rash or something like that. But she was dropped by her agent. She canceled, interestingly enough, on my shoot very, very, very last minute, to the point where I had to get a replacement within the hour. That worked out. It worked out. And she was difficult, right? but it was the hardest thing. I'm like, Dakota, you should. And I remember being like, look, if it's a case of you just get anxious about being on certain productions, like I'll book you and I will give you the easiest job. Like I'll get you in and out of here. I don't know, but it was sad.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because it's like, in my opinion, I mean, with the right kind of treatment and practice, if you're invested and you can do, practice what you're learning in therapy, if anything is workable. I mean, even serious trauma, even, like
Yeah.
I do think so. I mean, I know it's harder for some people, more challenges, the more trauma you have. And certainly if you have to kick an addiction, that's hard. I mean, really freaking hard. But it sounds like, it reminds me of, I told you about like the horrors of, we live without a net, most of us,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're a plumber and you hurt your back, you're screwed. If you are a work in the adult industry and you have a big old swollen thing on your face, you can't work. And it's so vulnerable and anxiety inducing because we don't really have a lot of control over our bodies. We do have things that crop up that make us look, not presentable.
Well, that's the funny thing. I've never. It's when anyone thinks that there might be any glamour associated with this line of work. It's because you see girls in makeup and glamorous outfits and things like that. But I just it's actually incredibly blue collar. I mean, we our there's an interesting kind of intersection, or I think of just my experience in like with combat sports. And I think of like, prize fighters being like, there's a similar thing with like adult entertainers, which is your body is your business.
Yeah.
And you can succumb to a lot of physical injuries. I mean, there are like literal cases of male performers like breaking their dick in a scene.
Wow.
Or, when your penis stops working and then you're using Viagra, which isn't intended to be used daily, right? It's not meant to be used daily. Or they start injecting the base of their penis to get it hard to be able to manufacture this erection to use. And then for the women, there's all kinds of like vaginal issues, like anal issues that can happen just from constant use. Yeah, you have those stressors. And I don't doubt that probably on some level, Dakota just didn't, man, it's hard when you don't feel like having sex to have sex, right?
Yes.
And then if you have any anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there came a point where I felt her just being unreachable. I wasn't like friends with Dakota, but like I would text like about work related stuff or trying to communicate something to her. And I remember we were friends on Facebook when I used to have Facebook under her legal name. And I remember one time I was finishing a shoot. It was really late at night, and like we were wrapping, and like sometimes like just the cleanup and breaking down equipment, all that can take forever. And I was like, it was probably like 1 or 2 in the morning. And so I go on Facebook and I'm scrolling, and then I see that she's awake and she's hula hooping. And it was like, what's happening? She's just like hula hooping. And I kind of laughed because she's wacky. She's very, again, like very, very, so charming, like this adorable, charming girl, but she was clearly something was up. And then, time would go on and she's just keep appealing. And just the irony of her appealing online for money to buy a plane ticket to go home when this was a girl that could have been pulling in. She could have been one of those girls, those like OnlyFans models pulling in like $60,000, $70,000 a month. Again, that I don't think that was ever the answer. Like I say that, right? And I'm like, this is a girl in crisis. This is a girl who has like some mental health challenges along with like addiction issues. The business was the last place she probably needed to be. What she needed was help. And then in 2021, hearing that she was found dead, she had overdosed, and that another performer who had a meth problem was found having killed herself in her car, like right around the same time. And this came after, that there were resources in place. Like I said, with after losing August Ames in 2017, like I'll give it to the business. They really actively put in place resources for people struggling. But here's the catch. You have to think you need help, and you have to want help. And that's the problem.
Yeah, you have to be willing to do the work too. You have to be willing to go and devote your time and energy to yourself and that whole project. And there's so many barriers, I think.
Yeah.
She also sounds deeply ambivalent about the work, right? Like you were making it really easy for her. And it sounds like, I don't know, I'm making this up because I don't know her at all, but there seemed like she was the not showing up, the not, you know what I mean? Like it just, I was feeling like maybe she didn't really want to be doing it.
And maybe didn't know that she didn't want to be doing it,
Yeah.
because what else was there? Like that was Savannah's thing, is what am I going to do without this?
Yeah.
What am I without this? Who am I without this?
So horrifying.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the only validation she seemed to ever get was her physical body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that was the case with Dakota. I know that there had been times that she would try to get clean and it would last for a couple days maybe, and then she'd go right back. And I don't know. I really don't know much about her history.
We just have these brains. I mean, that's that we get addicted to things, and it's like anybody with enough exposure would, I think. Some of us are more vulnerable to it than others, but yeah, I don't know. People talk about addiction like it's this very mysterious thing, or it's like a character flaw, or right. It's just, but it's our brains doing their normative thing. It's like learning, it's like, it's very hard to break that. It's very hard to get sober.
Yeah.
Just enduring the anhedonia, just enduring that period of time where it's just you're flat, you're kind of like, and making it through that takes a lot of holding and a real commitment. Yeah.
That is the thing when you have mental health challenges, which alone are hard, which are hard.
Mm-hmm.
And even within the dialogue, the kind of open dialogue that we have now about struggling with mental health in life, but also in the adult industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then the nature of the work, which
Mm-hmm.
is, you're manufacturing intimacy. It's what we do. We manufacture intimacy. We are subject to constant messaging in forums now. During Savannah's time, everyone during those times had number one, the money was just so much better than it is now. Just for like production, mainstream production in porn. I'm not talking about like the platforms and things, which is the primary for a lot of performers. That's where the bulk of their money comes from. But during the heyday of the 90s, you didn't receive comments telling you that you're ugly, or you're fat, or you're too thin, or you're stupid, or your scenes suck, or any of that kind of thing. Like at least the performers in the 90s were spared that. If they got any of that, it was probably like in person. They're at a feature dancing engagement, which by and large, most of the time, I think was probably pretty positive in terms of people being like coming there and being excited to see them. So they weren't subjected to that. Because that is what that is not helpful when you're not just a public figure the way that these girls are now, like Dakota or August Ames or anyone, being a public figure. and getting that kind of messaging that you're unattractive, but then, you've been naked and you have been doing the most kind of vulnerable thing you can do, which is just be naked and intimate. But then you're being told that there's things wrong with your body or the way that you perform, the way you come across, all of that kind of thing. Like, keep in mind, listeners, I know we spoke a couple weeks ago about like Sydney Sweeney and her jeans ad, and that, people then go in the comments and tell her that she's ugly. There's this one post that did I tell you about really this woman who very interestingly, posted that Sydney Sweeney was a butterface. And if you saw this woman who posted
like,
it, I'm like,
butterface here.
Well, I'm like, where's your self-awareness? Where's your self-awareness? You are entitled to your opinion, of course, right? No one has to think Sydney Sweeney's hot. Like when I talk about like me finding her attractive or her just being considered generally attractive, which is the truth, because she's widely famous, not just for her acting. She's a very good actress, but for being what is considered beautiful, right? By today's standards, whatever. And you're entitled to not think she's attractive. But when you go online and you say that, you need everyone to know that you think that. It's bizarre, right?
Yeah. But
so Sydney Sweeney hearing that, right? And then you gotta think about a girl like Dakota Skye, a girl like August Ames. Any one of these performers are not only being scrutinized and judged for the way they look, but also for their bodies and for their choices, for choosing to do this line of work.
Yeah.
And there's an odd ownership that a lot of these men have when they've seen you naked and vulnerable. They feel like they own you because they've seen you be intimate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I can speak from experience, like some of the really strange comments that even I get. And I don't really look at comments anymore because I'm just like, I can't. This is, there's nothing I can do about these people thinking the things that they think. But I'm also almost 53 years old and could give two fucks what anyone thinks of my body or whatever.
And you have a full life, and you're not addicted to drugs, and like you're right.
Not anymore. Addiction never really ends, but I'm not struggling. But you think about a girl who's young and who hasn't had it easy. Life hasn't been easy, and they're reading these comments. And there's a clip of Sydney Sweeney crying.
Really?
And she's saying like, it's you can find it if you look for it, but she's crying and she's saying something to the effect of like, something about like, when you think you say these things and it, whatever, like that her feelings are hurt. But I'm like, if Sydney Sweeney is crying, and this is a woman who is like getting these endorsement deal or these brand deals, and she's an actress and all that. Think about these girls like a Savannah or like these other ones. And I say all this. It really, I'm going to the piece about mental health. And then, of course, the other side, which is the addiction that sometimes there doesn't need to be addiction for it to end in this very, very tragic way.
Yeah.
I think that the drugs made it worse for Savannah, like worse. But I don't know that it was ever going to end any other way if she didn't get help for essentially what made her vulnerable to drugs anyway, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the underlying stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is the story of Savannah, and it brings up a lot of issues and like subtopics or whatever, entire topics about today, the adult industry today, the way we look at mental health, the way we look at addiction, and the resources that exist today. And then the real, the challenging thing of, even with these resources,
right, will people take them up?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But they exist, and the good news is I think that if there's anything good about social media, it's I have seen girls go on social media and say, "Hey, does anyone know, like, for example, like a gynecologist or a doctor that's not going to judge me for what I do? My DMs are open. The girl gets help." Like if there's anything good about this kind of easier access we have to each other, it's that, and that there are good people.
Yeah.
There really are.
Like in my field, definitely. Like I think, well, at least in my training, which was a long time ago, I think there's like a respect for sex workers and for adult performers. But you're always gonna. I mean, it's it's there's a lot of variation in our field in terms of people's training and practice and focus, and so it's still, I guess, what I would say to people in the industry who are looking for help. They have therapists, they the networks probably that they could be referred through the thing you mentioned earlier. What was it called?
Pineapple.
But yeah, to assess maybe early when you're checking out therapists to get a sense of whether or not, they have strong, I mean, we're not supposed to come with our strong opinions, but like I would look at the whole context of someone's life if they came to me, and whether or not they were ambivalent about the work they were doing. And if they were, that's okay. Most people can't quit their jobs, and they can't quit their jobs immediately. So, the question is, how do you live with your life the way it is? And how do you live well? And that's totally possible, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Ginger scratching.
Amazingly enough, I never ran into trouble with therapists and my line of work. I think more now than ever, there is generally speaking, sex workers are I'm not going to say accepted, but they are not met with the kind of public scrutiny judgment that they used to be. In fact, I love this stupid fucking series called The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I want to say the last episode or the episode before, there's like an OF, like an OnlyFans reference where this guy's like, "Oh, I thought that what you were saying is that you had started an OnlyFans," and he goes, "Which I totally am supportive of you with whatever it is." And I'm like, wow, that's progressive, right?
Yeah.
Again, I say that, and there's a deeper conversation to be had again about women and the sexual revolution and ideas about female empowerment. But I'll put that aside because I don't think anybody should be judged harshly for their choices. I just get uncomfortable when I see young girls turning 18 and immediately decide that their first course of action is sex work. It makes me anxious, but that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, but to wrap this up, listeners, I hope that this was a good episode for you. I just felt the need to talk about remembering Savannah and what her experience kind of means in the context of today, and what has changed and what hasn't. And if anyone has any insights, please always, I'm interested. Shannon's interested. And Ginger may or may not be interested as she sits off to the side scratching.
Now she's chilling out. Now she's quiet.
I'm amazed. Usually it's my dogs that are running around behind me trying to get in on the action.
Yeah. No, this one's with me today.
Yeah, Gingy. Okay.
So, I mean, I was wanting to hear these stories and know more about them, and also just hear from you sort of how it has evolved in the industry and what it's like today as compared to in the past. And I think a lot of our listeners are probably really interested in knowing more about the industry and more about these cases. If we had another hour and a half, I think would be great to start to tackle that whole question of, empowerment and this work and that kind of thing. Yeah, that whole sticky.
That'll probably be like a through line or like a thing that we revisit, or we these different because it's so relevant now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll talk about it. I have a great trapdoor topic to bring up.
Okay.
But everyone, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support, and we love when you leave us, 5-star reviews and
Comments too.
comments. Yeah, and if there's any topics you'd love us to tackle, let us know.
And corrections, if you have corrections,
Yes,
please
yes. Like
let us know.
Yeah, sometimes like I didn't want to just keep digging through trying to. I have a pretty good memory with Savannah, but yeah, if I flubbed a date or something, let me know. And follow us, please, if you don't already, on X at Secret Pass Pod. On Instagram, we are at Secret Passage Podcast. We are also on TikTok. It's still new, but Secret Passage Podcast. And you can find us on Patreon as well. You don't have to subscribe. We have content up there for you. But if you do, we love it. We love it. We'll love it.
I love it. I love it. You can subscribe as a free subscriber or as a paid subscriber. We don't have very many public posts because we want to get you into our community, but we do have some free posts. And yeah, and doing a podcast, as you know, is very time consuming, and we put a lot of effort into it and money and time.
Yes.
And so we really, really appreciate, we have some paid subscriber. We appreciate all of our subscribers, but thank you again to our paid subscribers for helping support us in this endeavor. And we hope we're doing you proud.
Word. All right, gang. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.